War Eagle War Report family, I am your host, C Dub. Today, guys, we will discuss Auburn coming off of a bye week, how Auburn has looked up to this point. Also, we discuss the elephant in the room, which is hot seat talk with Coach Brian Harsin. All that and more, including what did we see on the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. War Eagle, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you guys. I am joined by B. Will, Ike Jones, who will join us in a second. We want to welcome you to the latest Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by show sponsor Athletic Architects. Guys, in the latest age of NIL, if you're a student athlete, related to a student athlete, or you're just looking to start your own business, you need to go to buildthehouse.com so that you can begin planning your financial future. Shouts out to them for supporting us as well as the latest Weekend Tailgate. Also, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. There's a lot of ways you can support us. You're already doing it first by watching us live or on replay, but you can take it a step further. Share the video on social media. If you're on Facebook and Twitter, please share this. Use the hashtag or even at us on social media as well, so that people can find our content, help us grow our community. Smash the like button while you're here. And if you're new to our channel, we would love for you to subscribe and help to grow our subscriber base on YouTube as well. Now, you can also support us monetarily by becoming an actual member or patron of the War Report. I can tell you how to do that.
Yep, it's real easy. All you got to do is click that join button right there below the video. And, hey, listen, man, if you want to be a part of the greatest Auburn content community that ever existed in the internet's history, then you can come on board with the War Report. That's basically how it goes down, man. $5.99 gets you to the Patreon level. More Watch the Film content coming to you this week, even on the bye week. Yes, we're still dropping insider content. So you guys can get on board with that for $5.99. If you are already on board and you want to maybe sponsor somebody else to come on, you can gift a membership. All you have to do right there in the live chat is click the little gift box button, and you can tell YouTube how many you want to give away. YouTube will randomly assign those to other people who are a part of the community but have not yet become members, and then they can be a part of the Green Name Gang. We're giving away stuff. We're going to give away this War Report mug. Hashtag get your weight up in the content in the comment section right here in the live chat. Hashtag get your weight up. Sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. As always, if you have a restaurant business and you want to get your logistics on point, holler at the good folks at GWT2 Energy Consulting Services.com. That's GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments to be able to be a part of this drawing. We will do our drawing here right around the 1 hour mark of the show, and you have to be present to win.
Gentlemen, how are we this Sunday afternoon? Good, I hope.
I'm feeling refreshed a little bit. You know what I mean? It's always fun doing what we do, but okay, there we go. It was nice to just chill with the fam. Get out the house a little bit on Saturday, not be chained to the computer, and just watch some football. Just spectate, man. It was good. It was good, especially when things work out exactly like you want them to.
What do you mean, B? What do you mean by that? Could you be referring to James Barnett? Comment here that your boy lost again.
I mean, maybe he's got something to do with it, but I mean, we saw plenty. We saw plenty. We'll get into that a little more later.
All right. Well, let's get into kind of the first segment of our show. We've kind of stayed away from a lot of talk about hot seats and speculation. And for the record, we don't speculate a lot with various things, recruiting being one of them. We have not speculated about the future of Auburn, but I think we will be remiss to not address at this point of the season Auburn is 3-4. As we said on the midweek report last week, this is not how we saw where Auburn would be at the break or at the bye week. We expected Auburn to actually be trending in the right direction. Now, Auburn can still make something of this season, but as it stands, since the loss at home against Penn State, Brian Harsin's seat has been very, very warm. And we wanted to talk about what can Harsin do at this point? Obviously, win games is one, but at this point, I think most people will agree Auburn is kind of who they are. You can make some marginal improvements here and there. Will it amount in improvement in the win-loss column, right? And so your take on kind of where Harsin is with 5 games left in the season. I'll start with you, B. Just kind of your feelings about what this coaching staff has done up to this point in year 2.
Ike mentioned last week, I want to say it was that one of the things that bothers us so much about the discourse about Brian Harsin is not that somebody would come to the conclusion that he has not done his job well enough and he deserves to be fired. The problem that we have had as a collective with the discourse around Brian Harsin is that what anybody will use or point to as reasons for his firing is most, like, at best it's trivial, or it's an asinine reason to lead to the conclusion that somebody needs to be fired. There is enough for somebody to make the case he has not done this job well enough. And those conditions, those things that Brian Harsin could have done between year 1 and year 2 to make this football team better, did he do them? It's really not unlike if you want to liken it to, and of course politics is not a one-for-one comparison, but the last president goes out at any point in history, and usually the next president is a fix for what the last president did. So do you judge a new president on what he's doing or how quickly he fixed the mess that the last one made? On one hand, with football, you want to give a guy time to, you get the players in here that you think are best for the program. You put the system in that you think is best for the program. You create the program's identity. Who are we? Offense, defense. Are we a high-flying team? Are we a hard-nosed team? Are we a disciplined team? Are we a loosey-goosey type team? You know, we just got feel-good vibes. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Times it worked, it or it's wrong. Feel good. Players coach, right? And then it didn't work. Same thing with Mark Richt. He let the players bounce on the sideline and get all hype. And they won a lot of games, but they also lost games they weren't supposed to win. You set that identity, and that takes time. Before anybody had been hired, after Gus was fired in 2020, if you had asked us, we would have said you give anybody 3 to 5 years to make all of the structural and cultural changes that need to be made. What Brian Harsin inherited in 2 key personnel positions, we have seen those positions still be bad, but we also have seen them not improve. That is the first thing you point to when you point to a deficiency in job performance for Brian Harsin. This offensive line is worse than what it was in 2021. After you had a year to put your eyes on the talent, on everybody that was in the room. So that was not only the 1 or 2 guys that came in, one guy, I think it was Eston Harris, that came in the class, but also the guys that were already redshirting in 2021. What did you see from them? How do you evaluate them? So you had spring. They got to do they got to run against the defensive line, which even if they didn't play otherworldly before they started getting hurt, they still played a lot better than the offensive line. So you had a good barometer to test how good is our offensive line really. You start taking off the training wheels on the offense. You say, okay, well, we were running that thing with Bobo. We're going to run my thing. We're going to do my thing exactly how I do it. Pro style, just like this is how it's going to go. Under center, everything's going to work just like this because this is what I think is going to be best for these players going forward to the NFL, professional development. We're not just going to run an offense that can work right now. We're going to run something that can work for them in the future as they continue on to the next level. That evaluation there, to do that with the players that we have right now, that was probably a mistake. Yeah. It is fair to say Brian Harsin did not, based on what he knew he had in the room. We're not just talking about, hey, it's not just fall camp. It happened during the summer. It's all of 2021. It's all of the spring, and it's fall camp. And every game you go out there, you're getting more and more information on who your team is and what they can do. It is fair to say, even if you thought these players here could run your offense coming out of the spring, you didn't have enough bodies for attrition. You did not have enough bodies in case for attrition. I know this staff understands that because, again, they've stacked up at running back. They've stacked up at defensive back. They've stacked up at wide receiver. They did not stack up at the offensive line, which was one of the worst performing units on the team. Was the worst performing unit on the team. Even if you think that your starters last year are going to be your starters this year, insurance. Get some insurance.
Yeah.
You put some more bodies in that room. You just do.
Yeah.
You never know which one of those guys are going to. We were a Nick Brahms away from being okay and going to terrible. And that happened. And even if we weren't, even if Tate Johnson would have been a suitable replacement for Nick Brahms, a guy who hasn't even gotten on the field, center is an experienced position. He doesn't have the experience. So even if he had stayed in that position, which they liked the way he was developing, how long does it take for him to come around? The same way we're talking about Robbie Ashford needs reps. And the wide receivers who have not been on the field yet, they need reps. Development is a real thing. You're going to go with a freshman or redshirt? Is he redshirt freshman?
Who?
Tate Johnson?
I think so. Yeah,
I think so.
Either way, he hasn't gotten game reps. That's who you're going to go with to anchor an offensive line that has to do some heavy duty pass blocking, identifying. He's a junior, so he just hadn't played.
Yeah.
Okay. The knock on Harsin that is valid is you didn't prepare, even if injuries, you couldn't foreseen this coming. You thought you had these 5 guys that were redshirt seniors and super seniors. There was no insurance there. That is the first and foremost, most valid criticism of Brian Harsin's tenure so far. Because it's not like there's any other position. He said, well, we got Shedrick coming back and Malcolm Johnson. Oh, we're good. No, you get guys. Get guys. We got roster spots. Go get them. Why would you not get more? We could use more talent, couldn't we? Especially at a position we play so poorly. So that's the first thing where I think this is a valid criticism. We can't take out of context the fact that when the drama went down in the spring, the signing day had closed. Signing day had finished. We had one offensive lineman in the class. Everybody said, well, this is not good enough. And then they flipped the switch to try to create enough drama to get him fired. Once that switch is flipped, a fair evaluation of what Brian Harsin can and cannot do becomes almost impossible. Now, people will not want to concede that. People who did not like Brian Harsin before he stepped foot on campus, and especially after the first year, will say, oh, there's no excuses. You can't gotta do it. You got structurally. Once I put a target on your back, if people want to stay way far away from you so they don't get hit with straight fire, you have affected what type of job somebody can do once you put that target on their back. You have. And I can't ever take that out of his evaluation. So what that means is, yes, signing day had passed for high school recruits. There was a lot of transfer portal activity. Who knows what we could have done in the transfer portal if he gets a vote of confidence coming out of signing day instead of an attempted murder coming out of signing day. Those are two completely different things. They signal two different things, not only to the recruits, but their parents, to other coaches, because he needed to fill an OC spot. You think people want to come and now be under a roof where the roof might be getting torn down in less than a year? They made it harder for him to do what is most likely the hardest job in the SEC with our rivals, who we have to play every year, the expectations of the fan base versus the resources of the program, and what goes on at the very top. This is probably the hardest job in the SEC. There are other jobs where you could go and they say, hands off, you're the best thing we've ever seen. Do what you do. Like Kentucky, Mark Stoops. LSU, they frequently get coaches and say, do whatever you can do. We think you can do it. We're going to get out your way. They don't hamstring. They probably should have hamstrung Les Miles, but they didn't. They just let it run his course until he petered out. We've seen it where you leave a coach alone, let him do his thing, but we don't do that here. And so because of that, This is the hardest job in the conference. I would hear arguments for the country, but of course we're biased. We see this region more than the other. So with everything, with all of that
I'll say
considered,
it for you, country.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. With all that considered, I don't think he's done a great job going from year 1 to year 2. No. Whether or not it's a fireable offense here's a question I would have to answer, and I haven't even asked myself this question. And that would be, do you cut short your 3 to 5 year rule as far as what you give head coaches if it's clear that so many bridges have been burned internally and behind the scenes that there is no coming back, that support won't be renewed, that whatever spite may have been felt by one party or another that caused all of this drama to happen early in the year in the first, has it subsided? Has it gone away? The performance on the field is not acceptable. The conditions weren't ideal. There's a lot of balance to be made there. Honestly, it seems like we're in a situation where it may be best for him and Auburn to separate. And it's not because there was a definitive, man, he couldn't do this job. I don't think you know if somebody can do the job until you give them the resources and leave them alone. And that has never been the case for him. But I do know that the well may have been poisoned enough to where, why are you trying to save this? Why are you trying to? It's a complex relationship between the coach and the school and the administration. This happens all the time in relationships. You're like, hey, yeah, we could fight for this thing to keep going, but why would we? Because it's terrible. Whether you were wrong or I were wrong, it's now a bad place for both of us to be. And sometimes the best situation is just to separate.
Let me ask you this, because you said a lot there. And I'll pose this question to Ike so he can get some thoughts in here. Whoever the coach is moving forward, they're going to want to build their culture, their way of doing things. But you also have to manage fan expectation. And Auburn has always been a place to where you've had people who feel not only are they invested in the program, but it's their program. So there's a political aspect that comes to this head coaching job, right? You got to kiss babies, you got to shake hands, you got to do that outside of the X's and O's in recruiting. Also, you have a fan base who feels we're not Kentucky. We're not going to give you the Stoops treatment where we give you 4 to 5 years to get your thing going. Mm-hmm. When the last coach here got us to a national championship in year 1, the previous coach won a national championship in year 2. So the expectation is we're not Arkansas. We're not these programs. We're Auburn. And so any coach who comes in here, there should be significant improvement or evidence early on that this is the right guy for the job. Is that fair to conclude for the next guy, whoever that coach is, should Harsin be gone? What are your thoughts on that, Ike?
I mean, so the conclusion, if you're saying, so let me make sure I understand, I'm answering the question properly. Are you saying that it's fair for people to have that expectation based upon this history of coaches? Absolutely not. Again, there's history of coaches outside of Auburn being successful in their second year. I just don't know that can be the barometer for every coach everywhere, regardless of the situation. That 2 years in, you got to be good, especially in light of you're not going to resource that person. If you're going to fully resource them and give them all the stuff that they need, and you've traditionally been good, and you just so let's just say it's a situation like Alabama with Nick Saban, right? Or Kirby Smart whenever he gets done at Georgia, where you've been a traditional powerhouse, right? And you've got all the machine going, you've got all the stuff, and the next coach comes in, it shouldn't take them a long time to get it up and running. You make the right decision because you've got the machine moving. You should be able to plug someone in because you should be able to hire whoever you want to, and you have all the resources to get it done. That's why situations like Texas are befuddling, right? Because you got all the stuff. Why in the crap? Why aren't y'all being successful?
Texas.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to the other school in Texas that we want to talk about later, but I'm just saying, there are situations where there's not really a reason for you not to be successful, right? Auburn should be one of those places if we could get everybody rowing in the same direction. But It hasn't been that case. We've missed on talent evaluation consistently over the last 10 years. And that includes this coaching staff. I'm not taking this coaching staff out of that equation. Over the last 10 years, we've missed that talent evaluation. We've mismanaged our roster because we don't have any depth in our roster. Not talented depth. We've got good at the 1 deep, maybe the 2 deep in some spots, but specifically along the offensive line, we have not done a good job of filling those cupboards with talent and getting that talent ready to play year in and year out. We haven't done that at the quarterback position, and you can't miss on those 2 positions over and over and over again. You just that you can't be a successful program and miss there consistently. So is it fair to have that expectation? Probably not. But it's the reality of what the expectation is. And so as a coach, you have to understand that's the expectation. And this is what I said last time. I said, the issue that I have with this coaching staff is their sense of urgency and not understanding you don't have time. And operating as if you have time and stubbornly operating as if you have time places you in a position where you are today. And thinking, well, I can just, no, you can't just, not here. Other places you might be able to just. This ain't one of them spots. And you have to realize that as soon as you get into the seat and get in and start moving as if there's urgency about it. And I don't think that they've done an accurate job of doing or a good enough job of doing that to not place them in a position where this hot seat is what it is.
So Ike, you asked us something offline. I'll bring it here to the chat, to this conversation. There's 5 games left. We know that Harsin, it's possible. There's a difference between what's possible versus what's probable. I can go out and it's possible for me to win the lottery tomorrow, right? It's possible. If you look at the probability, I need to take my behind to work tomorrow, right? So it's possible to win out the rest of the way. Auburn goes 8-4. Maybe this talk dies down. But we've kind of talked about in the midweek rapport what we feel this team may do. What do you think? And B. Will, I'll start with you. What are 2 things that could at least send a message that, hey, maybe Harsin may need more time, as you alluded to earlier in the conversation, despite the mistakes made, the missteps made, maybe he's figuring some things out. What would give you that indication?
What would let me know that is if we go 3-1 down the stretch.
4-1.
Oh, excuse me. Ooh, 4-1. I don't know. so
hey, say it with your chest. If you don't feel it's possible, go ahead.
Wait, I mean, honestly, I feel like all the bridges have been burned. It's kind of the situation. I use the relationship analogy, but where mom and dad are staying together for the kids. Wait till they go to high school, so the kids don't have to be in the house when it's awkward and where's dad and he'll come pick you up. Let's just keep this going. Put on a brave face for the kids. Don't act weird. Now let's go about our day. That may be what's going on, and I think that it actually may be the case that Brian Harsin is doing his best coaching job for the players and the staff, and not to keep this job because he's seen what's come with this job. I absolutely believe that. I mean, there's enough there to show that maybe no matter what happens, whether it was 3-2 or 4-1, that it would be a mutual separation no matter what. So I think that that's actually likely. We have no idea information that says that that's the case, but that's just what I feel is going on. That Arkansas is a winnable game. Texas A&M is a winnable game. Mississippi State might be a winnable game, depending on what we show coming out of the bye here. It's not impossible. Now, Bama probably is not, because I mean they've got a dynamic running back and good running games versus us. It doesn't appear to be a good mix. But Western Kentucky is a winnable game as well. So I don't think 4-1 is impossible. All of these teams really are about the same. They're very mediocre, mediocre to bad. We are bad to mediocre, and we will see if something has been gained in this bye week to find something. The new mix on offensive line, the thing that Robbie found in that Ole Miss game, if there is some cohesion, still some more fight. And I think that there's a very, very good chance that we could come out and at least finish the 5-game stretch with a winning record over the course of those 5 games. I think that's completely possible. I'm still not convinced that that would be enough for him to stay the head coach. Again, I think we're assuming that he wants to remain the head coach after the season, and I just don't know if it's safe to assume that.
4-1. Does it matter how he loses to Bama, even if he goes into that game having won 4 straight? Does he have to show? Does he have to not be ran off the field? We've already been ran off the field this year against Georgia.
If you win 4 games coming out the bye and lose to Bama, I don't think it matters how you lose to Bama, because I think if I was evaluating his performance, you don't have the guns to compete with Bama this year. So why would I evaluate you based on that? I mean, I've seen Gus get run off the field in 2018 and 2020 and 2016, and it didn't really seem to matter too much when you play at Bama. He kept his job every year. So why would winning 4 games going down the stretch but losing to Bama, whether it's close or wide, lend to what type of job? You don't have the guns. The coaching job.
So I'll answer that question. No, you can't get obliterated by Bama. No.
I was about to say, and Gus beat Bama, and I think that
true.
gave him a bit of a pass on those years where he did get ran off the field. Harsin is yet to do that, buying him that grace.
That's true.
So I hear you, but I don't think the margin for error for this coaching staff is so small at this point. Given to Ike's point earlier about there had seemed to be a lack of urgency, which kind of speaks to the fact that this staff may not have understood what was all at stake with this job or what came with this job. And I think they've been learning on the fly, but to his point, you just have not had enough time. One of the things that I said getting into the season, I think I said this on a midweek report. I said this to you, Ike, and Mike B. You may have jumped off at this point, but it was right before the first game of the season, and Allen Green had left. And going into the season, I said Auburn needed to win at least 7 games for Harsin to be safe. Mm-hmm. When Green left, I bumped that game up to 1 because the guy who was responsible for bringing you to Auburn, who would have been in your corner, is gone.
Yeah.
So you have to show on the field why you're the coach moving forward for Auburn, why you're the coach for the future for Auburn. Sitting at 3-4, he has to have an amazing 5 games down the stretch. Yeah. He can lose a game, but he's going to have to be incredible down the road, opposite of what happened last year when we had a slide. Mm-hmm. He has to do the opposite of that to show, hey, maybe the decision to get rid of Harsin is premature. Maybe this guy needed time after all. Not only that, but recruiting has to be not too far behind that as well. Right. And so, again, fair or unfair, people want to see Auburn look good recruiting-wise. So if that's looking good and Auburn's trending in the right direction, you kind of have to take a step back and say, hey, is this premature? Now, again, we're talking about possible versus probable. I don't know if that's likely to happen at all. Yeah. But I'm telling you what has to happen, given what I said at the beginning of the season. Sitting here at 3-4, this Arkansas game is very important.
Right.
It's very important. Because
I mean, there is, I don't think that any game left on this schedule is not a must-win game at this point in time until you get to if you rewind back to the beginning of what we talked about at the preseason, right? Like, how many games does Brian Harsin need to win in order to keep his job? We said you got to at least be 1 plus what you did last year, and that's 7. I mean, you can only lose 1 more game. That's it. You only got 1 more L left on this schedule that you could take, and if you lose the first one coming out of the bye week,
yeah,
you're done. I mean, you're done. I mean, and people will argue he's done either way, right? But you are definitely done if you lose this Arkansas. Like, every week is a must-win game at this point in time. You can't lose anymore, right? Like, and again, you can win the next 4, possibly save your job, but then you still got to go out there and show face versus Bama or win it.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's got to be close or a W. You can't get, it can't be 2 touchdowns in the deficit in the column on that one. You got to make that game close to even have a shot to get it next season. And again, that's prayerful, because then you're in bowl game talks and you probably still got to go win a bowl. Like, if you get to the bowl game.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys ever did this in college. I had some of these tests to where I just looked at the test and I was like, I'm gonna miss this. I'm missing that one. I'm missing that one. So I got to get all these other problems right on this test to make a decent grade. Like, I already know. I already know this. I'm missing this one.
Yeah,
I don't have this one.
Don't know what's going on in this question.
So my best bet is to get a 70, because I got to get all these right.
Right.
Yes. We've all done this.
For sure.
That's Harsin at this point. I got to get all these other ones right. Regardless of how confident I am, I have to get this right. Harsin has to get this right down the stretch.
Yeah.
Your margin for error is gone.
Yeah,
like,
he's already blown all of his lifelines are done.
Yeah.
He don't have no more phone of friends. Like, it's you're done. Yeah. You're done, son. You got to make all the rest of these. If you want to be a millionaire, well, he's gonna be a millionaire one way or the other. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But if you want to get to the final test on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you've got to answer every one of these questions correctly, or you are out of here, champ.
For sure. We'll pick this up. We've talked about Harsin as a coach, the coaching staff. We're going to talk about the players at the break, coming off of a bye week. Got some interesting stats to just talk about what some things that the players can do, starting with Arkansas this week. But guys, hopefully you're enjoying the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by our sponsor, Athletic Architects. Guys, please be sure to do us a favor if you're watching live or on replay. It helps us out a lot if you share the video. Use the hashtag, smash the like button, guys. Help us with our engagement as you're watching live. Please get the likes up for us. We gladly appreciate it. And if you're new to our channel, we would love for you to hit subscribe there as well. We're going to pause to acknowledge the sponsors of the War Report.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
As always, thanks to the sponsors of the War Report, and thanks to those of you who have decided to become members of the War Report. Get yourself a green name to get in on all of the great behind-the-scenes content that we're putting out for you guys. We want to increase how much stuff we're doing out here, but listen, that comes with a premium, and we got to make sure that we're getting all of the resources we need to do all the stuff we want to do. But until then, we're going to keep cranking out this content for you guys. $5.99 per month gets you to patron level, where you can see all of our film breakdown stuff that we're doing on Mondays. We got you still coming up this Monday with more film breakdown. So stay tuned for that, patron members. If you are not a member of the War Report, you can hit the join button right below the video to get that going. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership to somebody, right down there below the chat, there is a place where you can, you have to be on your desktop to do this right now. I haven't checked to see whether or not they've released this for the app, but if you are on a desktop or computer, then right below the chat, the live chat, there is a little box where you can gift a membership to somebody else, and you can gift multiple memberships. YouTube will randomly assign those memberships to someone, and they will get the gift of a War Report membership for 1 month on you. We're giving away this War Report mug. Hashtag get your weight up in the live chat right now if you want to be a part of the drawing. We'll do that drawing here in just about 30 minutes, but you have to be present to win. So hashtag get your weight up, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business and restaurant logistics, hit up our folks at GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. GWT2Energy.com is where you need to go, and we will get that drawing popping here in just a little bit.
All right, guys, let's kind of tackle some comments real quick. We have a super chat by Ben Bloodworth. Says, hypothetically, say we keep Harsin. Obviously, the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator have to go. Who do we get?
So
I
I
think
don't
he
know
goes.
that both of them have to go, but they do deserve to be demoted, right? Like I don't know. So I don't put scheme. So I don't know that I have a scheme issue with what Jeff Schmedding has done so far.
Yeah.
I have an issue with evaluation at our linebacker position and
Mhm.
preparation there. But
Yeah.
I don't know that our defense scheme wise is terrible. I just think talent wise, we're lacking in a couple of spots or in depth in rotation at linebacker specifically. So I'm
Mhm.
not so down on Jeff Schmedding. I never was super high on Eric Kiesau as our offensive coordinator. I think that he has proven that he is decent at best. I don't think he's a terrible offensive coordinator. He's just not a brilliant offensive mind, and he's not a
Right.
great play-to-play offensive play caller that I think he deserves another shot at being an OC right now. So I think that's the more likely place where you have to make a change. But it wouldn't hurt you to do both. It definitely would not hurt you to do both. But that's going to require you to spend some bread. And then if you do that, do you put them both back on analyst spots? I don't know what you do going forward with those two guys. And they're Boise guys, right? So I'm sure that they want to stick with their guy, but I don't know.
I mean, does the problem still remain in terms of bringing a coach in? If you survive this year, you're still kind of where you were a year ago, still on the hot seat,
Mhm.
and the risk is still there from any coach that will
And
come in
I
next
think
year.
that's the difficulty that you would have unless you bring in an OC that has had head coaching experience, and that person can be ultimately your interim if you decide 5 games into the next season. All right, coach, we gave you time to right this ship, and you're 2-3 again. It's been fun, and then you promote that OC to the head coach interim. That's really the only way that even, like, you have to make them the assistant head coach, right? Which means that you now have to demote your current assistant head coach, right? So or that DC that you bring in has to be like, there's a lot of scenarios in which I don't know that this makes a ton of sense for anybody who wants to come in and take those jobs, which is
Right.
again how you've backed yourself into a corner with a lot of the decisions that have been made over the last 18 months.
Mhm.
So I don't know, man.
Nicholas Frazier asked, "Did Mike Bobo deserve another year as offensive coordinator?"
No.
In hindsight,
No.
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 Mike Bobo didn't do anything drastically different last year than Eric Kiesau has done this year as offensive coordinator. So I don't see a reason why. I don't see how Mike Bobo changes the fate of this team this year.
Right.
The offensive line
And
is just as bad, unless Mike Bobo is a better evaluator of offensive line talent, and his son staying committed here would have changed what the offensive line would have looked
right.
like this year. Then no.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there's a Mike Bobo. We have no hard confirmation of this. I don't think Mike Bobo was Harsin's guy.
No.
And similar to what had happened with with Gus Malzahn and Kevin Steele here, is you get a guy in house, and if Kevin Steele is a booster guy and they like him and they're getting tired of Gus, they're like, hey man, get ready. We got something. We're working on something. Just be ready when it's trying to move. And you don't want that in house. You don't want anybody that you don't know you can trust in house. He wasn't Harson's guy. Harsin got rid of everybody that wasn't his guy. And it may not have been about football acumen at all. It's like, I know how these boosters operate here, and I just saw firsthand. I've got confirmation of how they act. Anybody that might be susceptible to that is getting out, because I know they'll do it because they just did it. So, yeah, I think that was probably more about why Bobo left than anything.
Ben Bloworth says it's been a perfect storm against Harsin, but I argue that's not good enough reason to keep him.
Yeah.
Listen, I said this. I went on record as saying, hey, this is what, despite all of that, you still have to show improve on the field. This is what he's got to do. And he had a lot of confidence at SEC Media Days. And I think that's some of the things that, as you hear people who've been critical of him, he's having to eat a lot of those words when he told Mike G, who asked him, what is your message to recruits, given what has happened in the offseason? And he said, just watch, right? Well, we got to see something. And so that's on him and the coaching staff for us to show us something on Saturdays. Still waiting to see that consistently. F. Scott Fitzbeagle South Carolina 5-2 with wins over Kentucky and Texas A&M. Hire Shane Beamer.
So here's the thing about Shane Beamer and Mark Stoops. They are not good. They beat a Kentucky team that didn't have their starting quarterback. And we know how much important the starting quarterback is. And they beat a terrible A&M team. I know people are getting hyped up and Shane, oh, we needed this win. Look, Texas A&M is probably terrible. There's a chance they could be the number 6 team in the West or 7. That's still a possibility.
They can still be last place.
They could be bottom 3 teams in the league this year.
That schedule is tough.
I mean, it is, but our schedule's tough. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to celebrate Shane Beamer for beating bad teams. People like to say, oh, he went 5-2. Yeah, but you beat bad teams. The real test of if you're a good coach, if you're a good program, is when I put you on the field with good teams. And so far, he's gotten undressed every time he's got on the field with good teams. So, no, thank you. You know, that rah-rah, it's nice, it's good. You know, it's working for the recruits. But so far, even though he had a really good transfer season, it hadn't really worked out on the field. Their offense, they were outgained yesterday by a significant amount. They're not that good. They're just playing the right teams at the right times and is making that record look good. But the record is a little bit of fool's gold, depending on who was playing. Did you get a quarterback that was the dude or not? Will Levis may have gotten, may need to get half of Mark Stoops' extension because unless they have a comparable, and he's not even that great. He's just so much better than what Kentucky usually puts on the field at quarterback that he's got them looking better than they are. And they still haven't even looked that good with Will Levis. One quarterback can change your fortunes. Hendon Hooker completely changed your fortunes to Josh Heupel. Everybody's calling him a second-year genius. Okay. He's got to do it again when he doesn't have a fifth-year, super experienced, very talented quarterback that was looking for a new gig.
Yeah, we will definitely know what's what with Josh Heupel next year. Because, again, I say this again, coming out of camp, they chose Milton.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have looked way different if you didn't have Hendon Hooker to go to at Tennessee. So, you know, I get everybody loves Heupel, and his system is great. He's a great offensive mind. We're going to see what's what next year, though.
Right.
So, anyway, and that's not me trying to take a shot at Josh Heupel. I still think he's a good coach.
No, the Jimmys and Joes still matter, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to see how you have to have somebody to be able to run that ship. But the thing about Tennessee is they had a decent offensive line. So you can always do something when you have an offensive line that's decent. But as far as hiring Beamer, I mean, I don't know why people think like people just want to like. I think Auburn is a great job. Why does everybody think somebody wants to jump ship from where they are to come to Auburn though? Like, is Auburn a better? Let me say it this way: is Auburn a better job than South Carolina as far as the program, the notoriety, and all of those things? I think 100% the answer is yes. Is Auburn a better situation for Shane Beamer? The answer to that is no.
No.
The answer to that is no. Let's think about this. Last year, Shane Beamer went 6-6 in the regular season. Mm-hmm. The exact same record that Coach Harsin had, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would Auburn be happy with what they got last year from Shane Beamer? No. Mm-hmm. No, they'd be disappointed in that. Even now, the difference between Shane Beamer and Brian Harsin is a good offseason with recruiting. Right. But has that turned into more wins for them this year against quality opponents? No.
Right.
So I don't, again, I'm not, and this is not a comparative to who I like better, Shane Beamer or Brian Harsin. This is, I don't know that Shane Beamer is a good fit for Auburn. Right. Or I should say, conversely, that Shane Beamer would want to be in this seat at Auburn. I don't think
Shane Beamer had an opportunity to go to Virginia Tech last year.
Right.
And turned it down.
That probably was the most attractive spot for he grew
up
there.
Yeah,
the legacy, the name.
And he decided to stay where he is.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know that Auburn is the place where he's like, I didn't go to my home team, but Auburn. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Because not like VTech couldn't pay him.
Right. For sure. Larry McMullen says 5-0 and he's still gone.
Yep.
My guy.
Listen.
Right. Look,
this is funny because a lot of people feel this way. I think a lot of people, it doesn't matter to them They
I
don't
don't
care.
I don't
what
I don't
Harsin
know
does.
that I agree with this, but I can see the logic of how it would lean in that direction. I think that there's still a chance, depending upon, there's a lot of dependencies in this. If you were to ask me today the probability that Brian Harsin was the coach in 2023, it'd be less than 50%. I wouldn't want to go above 50%. Is there still a possibility that it happened? Yeah, but a lot of stuff gotta go right. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Harvey McCreary says, question is, do we really know that Harsin can really build a program? Because he inherited a winning program. Powerhouse of the Mountain West at Boise. He just had to keep the ship floating. What are y'all thoughts about this?
How many coaches do we know can build a program? Like, there aren't a lot of coaches out there that have taken programs from obscurity or from the doldrums into winning in a Power 5 setting that are even available to come coach at Auburn. So I don't know that we know that about a lot of coaches that are even available. So no, we don't know that answer. But again, I'd ask the question, how many coaches do you know that in a Power 5? I know a lot of coaches who've taken
smaller programs,
group of 5
or FCS up to group of 5
programs and turn them into winners. Yes. But I mean, Scott Frost did that for UCF. See what happened to him at the Power 5. Like, it's just, there's not a lot of ways to know the answer to that unless there's a coach who did it at the Power 5 level and then has either left coaching or gone to the NFL. Yeah. It's just, you're not going to find that answer a lot with a lot of people. So no, the answer to your question is, do we know that? No.
And
I mean, at this point, we're seeing the answer is probably no, right? But
how do you know unless you just give him the time, give him the resource, and get out of his way? So we won't. What he does here will not be an answer to that question because he's not going to actually get the time to rebuild.
Because again, you have the expectations of this guy did it, so he should take off hitting the ground running here, right? If he did that there, we're winning a natty here.
So I see people putting names in the comments section. 2 parts to the question: have they done it? Are they available to come? Or let me add, and willing to come to Auburn? Not just done it, available and willing. It's got to be all of those things in order for them to land at Auburn. Not just, well, I've seen them do it before, but are they coming here?
And are we even looking at them? Because again, we've hired people who fans who have to be honest, you would have never chosen Gene Chizik. Like, there's some people you would have, you know what I mean? And granted, Chizik,
two people were there and they were booing them.
Yeah, like there might be coaches out there, but do Auburn, the people making the decision, want them? That's what you got to be. That's another thing. There's too many variables with this, right? We can name coaches, and that's always fun to name coaches, right? But do the people pulling the trigger, who do they want? Remember, we were this close to having Steele. Kevin Steele. Who was pushing for Kevin Steele? No one in our comments.
No one in our community either.
So that's the other part of it as well. To Ike's point is, who are we going to pursue? Who's done that?
Right.
So, got some super chats here. Walt Taylor, appreciate you, man. Are you guys going to give us your top 3?
Top 3 what?
Coach options. I'm guessing is what you asking.
I'm not, because he's still the coach right now.
I'm not.
Once he gets fired, then
once he's done, we will listen. We will have our list prepared.
Yeah,
you.
I'm
That's
talking
our
about we will
homework
go
assignment,
live the very day that it happens, and we'll talk about it then.
We will give you our list of coaches that we think will be a good fit. Because trust me, we think about these things too. It's just we've never speculated these types of things, and so it's fun to talk about with the fans.
And here's the thing. That's consistent. We didn't do that with Coach Malzahn, even though we thought Coach Malzahn deserved to be fired. We didn't sit here and have conversations on who the next coach of Auburn would be until he got fired.
Right.
So
well, you know what? That's not completely fair. I was stumping for Bill Clark for a long time.
No, yes, you were stumping for Bill Clark.
I was. Sure, I was.
Yeah. But again, I didn't think that we sat here and had prolonged discussions about who the next coach of Auburn should be while Coach Malzahn was still in the seat.
No, I was just yelling, cut the check. I was yelling, cut the check. And that was after what? Good God. Way too long. 8 years. Imani Smoot says, I think Harsin deserves another year or two. But with that said, if they hire the likes of Deion Sanders, Lane Kiffin, or Matt Rule, I wouldn't be upset. Off this bye week, I would expect to be 5-0. I wouldn't expect nothing less, Imani. War Eagle to you, sir.
Imani, the eternal spring of hope. I love it.
Yes, I love it.
Appreciate it.
I love it. Appreciate that, man. I think I may have missed another one from Walt. Yeah, here he goes. The new coach is going to be represented by Sexton for certain. Then we better get our pockets ready if that's the case.
Yeah, man. That's
Sexton
must be about to buy a country because if he's getting the cuts of these buyouts that he's getting, shoo,
man, he's been eating off Auburn for sure. Let's talk real quick, guys, before we get to the drawing. We can talk about this a little bit and then get into what do we see. Let's just talk about, let's just pick one thing coming off the bye week that we just want to see with the players. We've talked about coaches long enough. Let's talk about these kids, because the one silver lining I could say about this season is that these kids are still playing very hard and competing. And that I can appreciate. Even when people asked us our thoughts about the issue on the sideline after the touchdown at Ole Miss between Tank and Robbie, you made a great point, Ike. These guys are arguing because they care. Yeah. If they didn't care, you would see a lot of apathy. You would see a lot of indifference on the sideline, even out in the score. So These guys are still caring and still playing hard. Give you guys a fun fact. Over the past 10 years, Auburn is 10-2 when coming off of a bye week.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some bye weeks where Auburn ended up playing their next game in the middle of the week on a Thursday, but they had like 12 days off, 13 days off 12 days off as opposed to 14, right? Nevertheless, 10-2 off of the bye week. One of those losses was to Georgia. I believe that was 2019. You want to know who the other loss was? Can take a guess?
Say Arkansas.
Arkansas.
I remember that was 2015.
And that was 2012, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, 2012 doesn't count.
Nah, but still. Hey,
it definitely counts this year, bro.
You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of interesting that's the other team. So there are some things that we definitely want to see improve. And you're going to name some obvious ones. Guys in the comment section are going to name some obvious ones. But if you just had to pick one thing for the duration of these 5 games that you can see visible improvement in with this Auburn football team, what would that thing be? I'll start with you, B.
I mean, if I'm being extremely obvious, it's just turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers aside of the LSU game. And I would love, even though that was more of a case of LSU was still finding themselves, we surprised them with something they had not seen yet. I would love to have that W under our belt. And as LSU goes on this little run they're on, to say, hey, look, we beat that team. Now, did we beat the team? Were they the team they are now when they played us? No. No matter. We beat them. We would have beaten what by the end of the season will probably be a very good team. And I think that looks a lot better. Turnovers aside of that game, I'm maybe not completely turnovers aside of the Ole Miss game. I think it was the difference in the points. So, sure, no turnovers from us. The neck and neck, probably last person that has the ball wins it. And it just looks a lot better. These scores are a lot closer. Production's better if we're not turning the ball over. But that's the number one. Number one is if we just don't turn the ball over, at least not excessively, somebody, they blitz you and a good stunt and the offensive line gets stuck and he gets hit and fumbles the ball. Sure, that's going to happen sometimes. Unforced errors, interceptions without pressure. I would love to see all that go away.
Be nice.
Yeah. Some stats about turnovers. Auburn is currently ranked 117th in the NCAA, 12th in the SEC. 16 turnovers. And we're dead last in the NCAA in turnover margin. Yeah, so my thing is
like 11 and forced 2 or something like that.
Yeah. So my thing is that I want to see us actually from the defensive standpoint, actually force some turnovers. and help our offense out. I would like us to be a little bit more opportunistic in forcing some turnovers, because that will definitely help get off the field for sure. Ike, what's one thing you want to see some improvement from this team going into the final stretch of the season?
I think it's just going to have to be the run game on both sides of the ball. We've got to figure out a way to run the ball, and we've got to figure out a way to stop the run. This next game is going to tell us a lot, because Arkansas is going to try to run the ball a lot, and Arkansas is better of the two units at run blocking, or excuse me, at run defense. They can't guard against pass for nothing, but they can stop the run decently. So we need to figure out, when we know a team is going to say, all right, cool, you guys can run the ball, not this game, and we can still find a way to make positive yardage in the run game, whether that means a commitment to the run, which God knows we need to figure out a better way to show a commitment to run the ball. But like passing first to set up the run, doing some different things, and then being able to scrape out some run yardage as well, or just lining up and running it down people's throats, even though we know that they're lining up to stop it. We got to figure something out in this run game, right? Because here's the thing. There are a lot of teams who run the ball really well, and that's the primary thing that they do. Look at Ole Miss. Ole Miss runs the ball against everybody, and people know they're going to run the ball. Who has stopped Ole Miss from running the ball? LSU. But I'm just saying they still ran the ball against LSU. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like LSU completely shut down their ability to run the ball. Right. So just having the excuse of people are just going to line up and stop it, we got to be able to throw. The reason why Ole Miss can still run the ball is because they can actually throw it as well, right? Like, let's not be right. Like that's the reason why they can still, because they're balanced enough offensively. But yeah, they got to be able to be better on both sides of the ball as far as running. They need to run the ball better, stop the run better.
For sure. And got some comments from the people in the comment section. Nicholas Frazier says tackling has to improve. I agree with that, especially in the open field. Good comment there. Phil agrees with you, Ike. He says stopping the run is his for sure. That's important this weekend. Absolutely. A. Jackson says, hope we found an offensive line in the bye week. Thoughts about O-line, guys?
I don't have any thoughts on this O-line until I see them play another game with that unit and play as well as they did against Ole Miss.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to see it. I need to see it more than one game to be like, yeah, oh yeah, we found our O-line. I don't know that yet.
Right.
I think they need to do more.
Erica Ratney says throwing on first and second down, basically mixing it up and not being too predictable on offense. Thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think our tendencies are clear at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
we will definitely be breaking down the Arkansas matchup this week and talking more in depth about what we want to see, what we expect to see. Hopefully we see better focus. You know, one of the things I talked about coming out for the San Jose State game is that this team didn't look focused. And we've seen that at times throughout the season with us putting the ball on the ground, the inexplicable turnovers. It just looks like a lack of focus at times. And so I'm hoping coming off the bye week, these guys are more dialed in to the game plan, what these coaches expect, and they play sharper. They play better. So anyway, we are about to do a giveaway, guys. We're giving away the War Report mug brought to you by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. That's our guy, Walt Taylor. Appreciate you again for sponsoring this particular giveaway. Guys, if you want to enter the win, enter hashtag Get Your Weight Up in the comment section to enter the win. Hopefully you've done it already because Ike's ready to draw right now.
Yep, let's get to it. 54 people have entered. Only one can win. The War Report mug, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Walt, appreciate you very much for consistently doing that. B-Rad is the winner this week. Let us know if you're still here in the comment section. Otherwise, everybody else will circle like vultures over your live chat corpse to swoop in and take away your prize from you. So, B-Rad, where you at? Oh, he's already here. B-Rad is on it. He's like, yeah.
I like taking my mug. There you go.
Congratulations, sir. What we need for you to do, Congrats, by the way. We need you to email us business@thewar report, and we need your physical address. Email us your physical address, and we will send you your mug. Congratulations again, and thanks to GWT2 Energy Consulting Services for being a part of our giveaway segment. Now, do we want to talk some stats?
Yeah, sure.
We can talk some stats, and we can be real quick with that because we're continuing on just kind of reflecting on the first 7 games of the season. Let's talk offense. Here are the offensive stats so far. I think we're 197 attempts to 102 completions. I'm curious what percentage that is. We've thrown 5 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. We're averaging 4.5 yards per carry in rushing, 14 touchdowns on the ground.
It's 52%, by the way, 51.7%.
52% in completion percentage. Turnovers, we have put the ball on the ground a whopping 19 times this season.
Wow.
We've lost 6 of them.
That is terrible. That's awful.
Yeah.
And you know, even though we haven't lost, we've recovered more than we've lost. These have been drive killers.
Yeah, that's 19 freaking fumbles is insane.
Yeah. So we've lost the ball that many times. So you can imagine in key games how that kills the momentum and gives the ball back to the opposition, putting our defense back on the field. That's it right there, guys. Right?
Yeah.
It's the turnovers, the lack of focus, putting the ball on the ground. We know fumbles will happen at times. I mean, I was watching a few games and guys had the ball secured, but a good lick will pop the ball out. So fumbles are part of the game.
Yep.
But some of the fumbles we've had, we're not that.
Right.
We're just not. It's a pure lack of focus. And so that's something that I expect to see. How do you expect for Auburn to actually improve its passing completion percentage?
I think you've got to give, what Erica talked about with first down passing. You've got to give him some quick, easy throws. I don't care if it's only 3 or 4 yards on first down on a throw. Like every throw doesn't have to be 15 yards down the field. This is the problem I had with the last guys. Like everything ain't got to be a lateral or deep shot. Like there are portions of the field in between -2 yards and 15 yards. Like there are a lot of them, and you've got to be better in those portions of your pass offense to get your proficiency up. So give him some quick, easy throws, get the ball out of his hands. And he's just got to be able to put it, he can't have the rocket to tank on a freaking screen pass, right? Type of throws, right? It's just got to be something quick and easy, get it out of his hands, quick outs, speed outs, quick slants. Those things need to be a part of the offense just to allow him to get into a rhythm, just to make those linebackers take just a half a second more before they're screaming downhill on the run. But if you do that and he can complete those with some level of proficiency, doesn't have to be perfect, but just be more proficient, then your percentages are going to go up because you're going to see more wide open shots down the field in your play action game, et cetera. Right. So I think that we've got to figure out how to do those things.
Yeah. Thoughts, B?
I mean,
just with the offense in general.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about turnovers being the difference between some wins and some losses, but with the pivot midseason, halfway through between the beginning of the season and the bye week is when we pivoted on the offense. Different starter, different offensive philosophy, I guess you could say. This isn't new if you're doing something for the first time. The mistakes, the turnovers, for people who are getting their first starts, it's very indicative of youth and inexperience, and we've got enough of that for it to be everywhere. The most experienced unit on our offense, that's not the offensive line, so the one that touches the ball, is the running backs, and they haven't really turned the ball over. They've been really good about it. It's experience. Tank did more of that when he was younger.
Yeah.
He grew up. He got better. He knew he needed to be a better back. He worked on it. We see it all the time, whether it's the NFL where you see true freshmen get in the game, when true freshmen get in the game, come in as backups for more experienced players, and all of a sudden the OC starts calling a bunch of runs. Just run. Why? Don't throw the ball, man. Usually it's for a team like Clemson yesterday, who, okay, the starter, when we gave DJ Uiagalelei so much credit for improving, and then yesterday happened. Yeah. So anyway, Klubnik comes in, and they just run down the field with Shipley. It's just run. Do you know why they run the ball when inexperienced quarterbacks are in the game? Because inexperienced quarterbacks have a tendency of turning the ball over. A tale as old as time. Inexperienced quarterbacks in the NFL turn the ball over.
The tale as old as time was Beauty and the Beast. All right.
It is.
Sorry.
It is. Dang it. Now the song's in my head.
I went to Disney on Ice Friday, so my bad.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Fair enough.
The biggest difference with us is that we don't have a choice of more experienced, better players. What we got is what we got. This is it. This is what we got. Offensive line inexperience is what we got. At wide receiver, even though we have what we think is a very good wide receiver room, we still got inexperience. Coy Moore hadn't been in the spotlight that long, so the turnover he had in the LSU games, like I want to be all mad at the guy, but it's like, nah, kind of. This is what happens when you have very little experience, very little game experience, and a maturity and a savvy that comes with playing more and more games and going through seasons. This is just what it is. Now, going back to what we started the show with, if you want to say, well, the coach's knock is that, why do we only have inexperienced players? Fair. Completely fair. I get that knock. I get that criticism. They brought in a guy who just played a full season at Texas A&M last year, whose off-season shoulder surgery was botched, not by Auburn. And again, so now we're in a situation where here we'll get an experienced guy who's played in the SEC and won games. Got it. Oh, well, look, he's out. Nothing that we could have helped. Absolutely nothing we could have done to prevent it, to fix it, or to know it was happening. He recovered on his timetable. The closer you get to what you think is full recovery, turns out he's not fully recovered. He has a decision to make. The options were there. And again, he shored up the quarterback room as well. So this is why we can knock a little bit on the offensive lines. Like, listen, man, you needed more bodies. You did. Quarterback, you got the bodies. They ended up not working out, but they were there. I don't know how much blame to put on these offensive players when I absolutely know you have to take your lumps and be good. The best programs and the best football teams don't put inexperienced players in harm's way so early. I get that. Auburn is not the best football team, and we have not been the best program recruiting over the last 5 to 6 years. And I mentioned this last week. The further I dig into what our recruiting classes were, it started in 2016. Woof. Players who never saw the field, who got dismissed from the program. We kept roughly half of our 2016 recruiting class, and the ones we kept weren't all studs either. We have been under recruiting, and those recruits have been underperforming. It has been a very slow buildup. It didn't look like it on the surface because we had a couple of big wins and a decent season or two here and there, right? This was in the pressure cooker for a very long time. We needed to hit the reset button. A Zach Calzada would have been great to kind of put a bandage over for a little while. He's not here. This is what it looks like. I am not so down on these guys because they need this, man. These players need this. Let them have it. Let them, whatever lumps. We weren't going to win the SEC this year. We weren't going to win a national championship this year. If there's any year to go ahead and take your lumps and let these guys get their experience, it's this year. This is when you do it. Like, the Golden State Warriors came off of losing the NBA Finals against the Toronto Raptors, right? So Klay Thompson got hurt, KD got hurt, and he left. And then Steph got hurt, and Dre got hurt the following season. Why? Because you're not going to play for anything. One of your key pieces is out. They knew that they weren't going to. So Steph basically took off the whole year. Draymond took off the whole year. 2021, they came back, and Steph played. He had a good comeback season, and Dre did too, but Klay still didn't play. You know what they did? They recuperated. They had bad enough seasons to where they got more talent in. So by the time they had a full deck again, they're like, all right, now we're ready to go. Why would they push themselves in the season where you're already missing key pieces What are you trying to save face for? No. We need to prepare to be a better team next year. That's where we're at. There is not any grand design anymore. Like that's over with for 2022. We're done. The 22. If you had aspirations, I'm sorry, Monty. If you had aspirations for what we were going to do this year, throw them out. They're done. What we can do is show improvement. Let these players take their lumps so that next season you don't see the same type of mistakes. That's what I want to see from this team, and I think that's very possible over these last 5 games.
Let's talk defense. Look at the stats here. Auburn's defense is giving up on average 28.29 points per game. Total defense in terms of yards, they're giving up a little under 400 yards at 391.
Ugh.
Secondary's been playing really well, 186 yards through the air. They're allowing a game, 204 yards on the ground, though.
Ooh.
So we've seen the completion there. Do we know what the percentage is there? It's
too high, but no, it's over 50%. But
a little over 50%. That's not bad. That's not bad. Two interceptions in the season so far.
58.5.
58. Okay.
That's poor quarterback play. 58%. That's very mediocre quarterback play. So
Yeah. We're making some QBs look mid. Now, more on that later as we begin to play some teams that are pretty good throwing the ball this season. We'll see how those stats look. But a revelation on defense has been our secondary, guys. Our secondary has played really well. I see Scott listed there, James listed there. We've been pretty good, guys, on defense in our secondary. Will we expect more of the same in this latter half of the season? What do you guys think about the secondary?
I mean, I have no problem. If you guys read my article, which I felt like I was being harsh when I was talking about all this stuff. I was like, man, these numbers are what they are. Like I can't make them, I don't get to put effort on my grades. So for those of you who don't know, on the warreport.com, I did a mid-season report card on our offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. And the numbers just are what they are. Like I don't know another way to parse these numbers out but to say what happened. And I can give a lot of kudos to guys for trying really hard. But, going back to our analogy of taking a test earlier, like, I don't care how much work you show on your paper. If all the stuff that you put down there is wrong, it's still wrong. I can put a bunch of jibber jabber on the paper and like, oh, yeah, man, let me try to solve this differential equation and da. And it's like, hey, man, we're doing geometry, bro. It's like, oh, well, yeah, everything you just wrote down has no bearing on what we're talking about right now. The numbers are what they are. You can see we're putting the links to those there in the chat if you guys want to go check out those articles. But talking about the defense, I had good things to say about our secondary because I feel like our secondary has been a bright spot for us defensively. They've done a great job considering the fact that teams have not had to pass the ball on us a lot. That's taken a lot of stuff off of them. But you would think play action would be immaculate against this team.
Right.
They've still been disciplined on the back end. They've gotten beat. No, I mean, everybody's going to get beat. But overall, secondary's played well.
For sure. I think what's the biggest disappointment other than the obvious, which we've bemoaned all season long. I'm not even going to spend more time on linebacker. I will ask you guys a question about that. But one of the biggest disappointments on the defensive side of the ball has just been the injuries. Losing Aku Leota for the season. Guys being beat up front, have not been able to play up to their potential along the defensive front the way we know they're capable of playing. But you guys' thoughts about that with injuries and how it's affected our defensive line?
I mean, defensive line, I don't think injuries is the big story. Aku Leota going down from the edge position is definitely huge, though. I think that's the biggest difference maker, even in our run game, just because he's such a vital piece to being able to just play defense. Is like a one guy on your team that's unblockable paired with another guy who's got a constant motor, right? Like, so this was the beauty of our defense. Aku Leota couldn't be blocked, so you had to go try to chip him, send somebody extra over that way. And then he's forcing the quarterback towards the guy who just doesn't give up on any play in Derek Hall. Right? When you lose one of those pieces, now Derek Hall has to be your unblockable guy. And to be frank, Derek Hall is blockable. He's blockable, but he doesn't give up on plays, which makes
Right.
it where you might have got me initially, but if my first move didn't get you, you've got to maintain that block, because if we're covering well on the back end, I'm going to get to your quarterback.
Right.
Like, so that's the kind of guy Derek Hall is. Colby Wooden starting to become the guy along the front that was unblockable as we used to like. And for some reason, that's kind of how Colby Wooden's been his entire career. He like comes on later as the season progresses. He just gets more and more of a problem for defenses. But to the original question, injuries definitely have hurt this defense. Not nearly as much, I think, as it's hurt offense, but different defenses are not having to game plan the same way as if Echo Leota was a guy in there for rotational depth along that edge position.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we expect to see, if at all, with the second level? Do we expect to see new faces these next 5 games, or are we going to thug it out with who we got?
I at linebacker, we got to get some new guys. Look, man, listen. Hey, Eugene Asante, man. Hey, bro. I don't know if you mad at somebody right now or they mad at you. We sorry, man. We sorry. We are sorry. We are
double
sorry.
entendre.
Come back. Yes.
we apologize, and we sorry as hell.
Come back and tell whoever you ran afoul of that you're ready. Come play ball, man. Whoever's mad at Robert Woodyard, apologize to that young man. Tell him that you are ready for him to burn that red shirt and go be and take his lumps. Let's see it. I want to see him. Jeffrey Imba. Hey, bro, you're a physical specimen. I need to see it on the field, man. Come on, man. You got it in you. Let's get this thing cracking, man. I need to see. Those are the 3 guys back half of the season that I need to see more of, and I want them to be productive when they get into the game.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Let's get into special teams. Let's talk that. We've had we've averaged on punt returns, 8.9 yards per return, kick returns, 14.5 yards. Punting has been, again, one of the best parts of our special teams. Carlson has been 8 of 10 this year. He did miss 2 pretty big ones in the season earlier. Our thoughts on special teams, gentlemen?
I mean, not a part of that statistic page that we just put up, but the special teams coverage unit has been poor over the last couple of games.
Yeah.
Us not kicking the ball into the end zone, again, inexplicable. And field goal kicking, that statistic doesn't tell how bad I think that it's been. 8 of 10 doesn't look that bad, but when you factor in some of the ones that he got as a mulligan, it looks worse.
Right.
So hasn't been particularly great in the kicking game other than our punter.
B?
Right. I mean, same. I don't know.
Speaking of people who I'd like to see after the bye week, somebody else on some sort of kicking duty, whether it's kickoffs or field goals, somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too much to say about special teams. Is our poor kicking early affected the decision making of the coaches, which then puts us in situations where we probably should be punting, pinning teams while our defense is playing well early in the game, and we don't. So we need to kick better. Carlson needs to be more reliable outside of 35. Will he be? I mean, I hope that kicking doesn't decide one of the games here down the stretch.
Right.
I would love to get McPherson in here just to, let him see it. Let him do it. Let him get on the road, kick some kicks, feel some pressure situations, and he'll be even more seasoned and more steeled for the role next year, because it's definitely going to be his. I don't know why you don't do that. I would empty the bench in every position group. Who haven't we seen? You want to get out there? What are you not even on scholarship? Don't matter. Get in there. Make some tackles, man. But special teams has been the punt game has been reliable. I mean, Oscar Chapman's probably the MVP of the team. He keeps it from being as bad as it could be, or sooner in these games. But
he's got a lot of work.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work. So, yeah, special teams is what it is, man. Just hope we can kick a couple of more kicks and make the decision to go for it outside of 35 yards on a kick here in the second half of the season.
Let's talk about coaching here. We've averaged 6.5, almost 6.5 penalties, a little over 6.5 penalties for average of 54 yards a game. I believe this is what am I looking at with the first downs, Ike? Is that how many first downs we're averaging a game?
Yeah, sorry, average first downs per game.
We're
I'm
averaging
about to
18.
say, wait a minute.
It's like
It's been like that. 7 games, 18
listen,
first downs.
it's amazing we've only won 3 games.
I know it's bad. I know it's that bad.
Yeah, no, it's average per game. My bad.
Okay. Third downs, we've gone 32 of 95. That's our percentage there. On fourth downs, we've gone 10 of 16. And in the red zone, we've gone 19 for 22 in terms of touchdowns. Time of possession, we've averaged a little under 30 minutes. Any more thoughts here, guys?
I mean, we've talked about coaching pretty much here. I think that the job that the coaching staff has done, it's got to be better. Like, you have to understand where our deficiencies are and plan around those and figure out a way to. And to be fair, I think our coaches have tried to do that, which is why you see some trick plays. This is why you see some stuff that are head scratching calls. They've tried to just interject and do something to get momentum going in our direction. But I just think it comes down to more fundamentally the plan of the game and not the gotcha plays of the game. Like, you can't gimmick your way, I think, to a successful program. You might can gimmick your way to a couple of first downs. But you've got to do more than that to be successful as a program, and that's where we are right now.
Nicholas Frazier post, appreciate you. He says, is there a word on Joko Willis? Could he be the answer at linebacker? Just curious to know.
I mean, Joko was in the edge group this season, so he hasn't even been getting work at linebacker. So I don't know that he could be the answer. There are guys who got work at linebacker who we haven't seen play. Again, I need to see those 2 guys that I mentioned before I see Joko Willis. But like B Will said, somebody step up and make a play. I don't really care what your name. I don't care if it's the guy who just got his scholarship, Lester. Like, I don't care who it is. Somebody step up in here and make a freaking play and play consistently. And when you get there, actually tackle a guy.
Yeah, and I'm afraid, like, I feel bad for him, like I felt about like Landon King. And I mentioned this to you, Ike, offline. Like, I don't know if they know where this guy fits, what to do with this guy, and I think as a result, he's not in the conversation because of them not figuring out how to use him.
Yeah.
And I feel like Joko is an example on defense, like Landon King is on offense.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. All right, guys, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we see.
What did we see?
So I think we should start with Ike first.
Oh, are we going straight here?
Let's go here first. Let's get, because see, we're gonna be hating.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be hating the rest of the way.
Okay. All right.
So let's be objective and get some of the love out the way. Is that okay? Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. All right. So here it is.
And by the way, before you go, sorry. We do have some comments. I've been saving some of these comments here.
Okay.
The comment is, by the way, Bo Nix played like a Heisman yesterday. I watched that Oregon game. He was throwing dimes. Now go.
All right. So here it is. I want to say congrats to Bo Nix for playing well for the remainder of this season, sans the first game. A lot of people were upset at me for getting on here talking about how poorly Oregon played in that first game. They played like crap. That was more so an assessment of more of the same that I've seen from the quarterback. A lot of crazy talk from their head coach. Again, it wasn't just about Bo Nix. It was more about all of the things surrounding what led up to that game.
Right.
But Bo Nix has played well. I don't think that anyone can debate whether or not Bo Nix made the right decision to go to Oregon. The offensive line is better. The defenses are not as arduous week to week. He's going to put up great numbers, and he's doing it.
Right.
I don't know. Like, if you're upset at that, or you expect me to be upset at that, I don't know what to tell you. If you go back and watch the show that we did when Bo Nix announced that he'd be transferring to Oregon, I said in that show, I think he's going to do great up there.
Yeah.
And I wish him the best of luck. And he's done great. I think he deserves all the praise that he's getting right now for playing well in every game that he's had other than Georgia. And I want him to continue to do well. I don't have any hatred in my heart for Bo Nix. I hate Bo Nix fans, but I don't hate Bo Nix. I have no reason to hate Bo Nix. So congrats to Bo for playing well and doing the job that made him the 5-star athlete coming out of high school that everybody thought that he could be. He's out there and he's showing the athleticism, his ability to escape the pocket. He's got the big time arm and he's making some great throws. I don't have any issue. I've said while he was here, I wish he would do that more consistently because I've seen him do that. I know he has the capacity to do that. He's doing it more consistently right now at Oregon. And I think that that is a wonderful testament to a young man and the people around him deciding for his future, it's best to put him in a different situation. And I think that that's great for him. I don't have anything negative to say about that situation at all. If people are expecting me to do that, I don't know what you've been listening to me say. But congrats to him. Wish him the best of luck for the remainder of the season. Keep doing your thing, young man.
Yeah. And to piggyback off that, it was the absolute best decision for him.
Yeah.
People were getting riled up during the Ole Miss game because I was tweeting from the War Report account, and they were saying, "Man, why didn't the staff go get Judkins? Judkins wanted to come here, and we were chasing Trevon Citizen, and we didn't get him in. And Judkins doesn't come here." And honestly, it's a situation where we could lose somebody because we've talked about this, which we've said this plenty of times. Bo Nix improved last year. It's the most improvement we've ever seen from him in his 3 years at Auburn was last year under this staff running a pro style system. So I guess after you get over some of the learning curve early, he was starting to figure it out before he got hurt. It's absolutely the best thing for him that he left, just like it's the best thing for Judkins that he's not here. It was the best thing for Malik Willis not to be here.
Right.
You can like the player, and it's a lot of the conversation in the chat. You can like a player. However, the best thing for them may not be to be in the place where you love them at, where you got to know them at, or where you got to see them at. Offensive line, this was some of the stats available on some sites going into the Oregon UCLA matchup. Rush success, Oregon #1 in the country in the FBS out of 131 teams. Line yards, how much room you give the running backs, your offensive line gives the running backs before they actually come into contact. 3 in the country. Number 3 in the country. That is independent of the running back, of the quarterback. Pass blocking, #1 in the country. The country. You know what Bo Nix would have been looking at if he had stayed at Auburn? Run success, 84 out of 131. This year. Line yards, 114 out of 131. How much room we're giving our running backs? Pass blocking, 85 out of 131. We've seen what Bo Nix looks like under duress, pressured, having to think about a complex system. If he was going to come back here and have to do that, it would have been more of the same. It would have been terrible, and he would have been losing games here, and he would have not looked anywhere near as successful as he looked in Oregon yesterday and had looked at Oregon so far after the Georgia game. He made the best decision for him, our offensive line, and our support staff. Would not have supported Bo Nix being successful on this level if he had stayed here. It is okay that Bo Nix did not come back here. Because if you like Bo Nix, and we've seen this, people are just a fan of Bo, they're a fan of the family. If you're a fan of Bo Nix, you should be happy he got out of this situation. Because I think one thing that we have seen is with Bo Nix last year, we had terrible games on offense. With TJ Finley, terrible games on offense. With Robbie Ashford, nobody was going to look good behind this offensive line unless we found a truly elite quarterback prospect. Of the likes, the only ones I've seen in the conference are Bryce Young, maybe Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, there are very few quarterbacks that can flourish behind a bad offensive line. Yeah. There are quarterbacks who can do it. I say again, there's a lot to do with scheme. There's a lot to do with just the moxie and the intelligence of that quarterback and how they operate within the pocket or outside of it. But it's just not a lot of guys that are going to be good with a poor offensive line. Again, that doesn't mean that I think Bo Nix is some elite quarterback who can flourish without the. It's clear he needed a better O-line to be good, to show his full potential.
Right.
You can say that about a lot. There are some quarterbacks though with a good offensive line. They're terrible, right? And so Bo Nix has always, to me, been right there in the middle.
Right.
He's never been terrible. He's had terrible moments, but he's never been elite. He has elite talent. He hasn't shown elite play consistently. He just hasn't. But he's doing great at Oregon.
And for what,
I'm not mad at it.
To be fair, a lot of our criticism has been things that Bo could control. You can't control bad O-line play.
Right.
But you can also control ball security. Right. You can control settling down and not allowing to play worse because you've had a few bad series. You can control that. You can control your composure within a game and on the sideline. You can control that. Like, those were some things that were in Bo's control that he didn't handle well, that had nothing to do with the offensive line at times. And we were critical on that. And I think those things are fair. In a situation like Oregon, and even last year, we gave him a lot of credit for improving. He actually looked like he was trending in the right direction last year. Yeah. Right? He was a little bit more consistent than he was the 2 years prior. And it looks like he's began to put it all together in his final season, which, to Ike's point, kudos to him.
Yeah.
What I don't like, though, is that people acting like the first 2 years of his career and part of last year never happened as it pertains to things that were in his control. He very well made a lot of mistakes here at Auburn, and I'm happy to see that he's making less of those at Oregon, because I do want him to do well moving forward. He still loves Auburn. So I want him to do good moving forward, but let's not act like two things can't be true at the same time.
Yeah. Right. And having said all that, I still don't want I still am not of the camp that's like, oh, we miss Bo. I want him to flourish where he is.
Yeah. All right. Now that we got the love out the way. Hey. All right. So Mike G does not like Brian Kelly.
Right.
Okay. Brian Kelly, a man died under his watch, right? In the tower. Okay. B. Will, we already know who you don't like. Ike, if it's not Auburn, you just don't like him, period, right? Is that fair? So you pretty much you hate everybody. So we're still hating. I just realized who I hate, who I'm gonna hate on.
Who you hate, man?
I don't like Dabo Swinney. I don't like Dabo. I don't like him ever since Auburn lost on Clemson's field and he acted like a complete goofball at the end of that game. He was the same guy who said that if players start making money and getting paid, he was going to leave the game. Dabo, why are you still here? Why are you still here, Dabo? I don't really care for Dabo. What is a Dabo? What does that even mean?
You sound like Mike.
What is a Dabo?
What is a Dabo?
What is even a Dabo?
Can someone look that up? What does that even mean?
That's actually very interesting. Like, why did somebody, of all the names in the history of namedom, how did you come up with Dabo?
It's so, and you can make fun of that so easily, but I'm not going to do that. Dabo in and of itself is funny. So I was hating on them yesterday. And we know the outcome, but my point here in terms of what I see is you can't keep running from this L, Dabo. Oh, you're running.
It's like Final Destination.
You alluded it. You avoided it yesterday. You're going to get this L.
You guys realize Dabo with an L is Dayball, as in the former. I'm just playing.
That's who's going to be the coach. You're going to lead the Giants.
It's conspiracy.
Conspiracy. You can't keep running from this L, Dabo. Syracuse, and watching this game, I knew halfway through the second half, I'm like, Clemson's going to win this game.
Yeah.
Syracuse just stopped moving. Whatever was working in the first half stopped. And I just knew you're going to come back and win this game. And Dabo is trying to make it like, DJ is our guy. DJ is your guy. Let's be clear. He's your guy simply because Cade Klubnik.
So let's be clear. We know his real name is William. I'm just saying Dabo is still stupid.
Yeah. That's all.
Klubnik. Yeah, the freshman, true freshman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got QB issues, Dabo. Still.
Yeah.
You still got QB issues. I know DJ's been, he's been working out in the offseason. He's put on some weight and he's focused and he looked better at times early in the season. But boy, did we get a look at 2021 DJ yesterday. This was the DJ we saw last year. I think you still got QB problems and your freshman isn't ready yet. So DJ's your guy. I am going to be here waiting patiently. Just like B. Will has been waiting patiently for Jimbo to be where he is, I'm waiting patiently for you to get this L, Dabo. Because Clemson has a good defense offensively. Y'all real sus. You looked out yesterday, and I don't know who in that sorry conference of yours is going to do it, but eventually you're going to catch this L.
It might be UNC. They have steadily improved.
Can UNC stop anybody?
They have been getting better. Chiswick is coaching them boys up, as I figured he would eventually.
All right.
It might be UNC.
Okay. All I'm saying is it's coming, Dabo. I'm counting on it because I don't like you. That's why. I have no stats. I have nothing. I just don't like you, Dabo.
I wonder if he still thinks
you know what else starts with the letter L in like? Loss. You're catching this L. You're catching this L, Dabo. I can see the rest of my time.
Hey.
To the man of the hour, B. Will.
I feel like I'm gonna disappoint y'all because
we say this every time, and then you give the epic performance.
There's nothing epic now. See, now we baked a cake early in the season, preseason, early in the season. I mixed all these ingredients up. I gave y'all all the reasons why Jimbo Fisher had no business being regarded highly enough to get the contract that he got, or to be considered a genius in any fashion when it comes to head football coaching. But I've been mixing these ingredients up for a while. So we put it in the oven after the App State, and that was really, I was like, hey, I think this cake is just about done. I'm going to put this in the oven. And what we're seeing now are the beautiful results of that effort that we were in the kitchen. You see the lack of creativity on offense. You see the poor quarterback recruiting. You see a clear abundance of talent that plays lower than what their ratings are coming out of high school. I don't think there is a more telltale sign that a coach is bad, an actual bad coach that's in over his head, contrary to what is going on here at Auburn. See, we actually have a talent problem here at Auburn right now. We do. That's the number one problem. Is a talent problem here. Jimbo Fisher's problem is a competence problem, you see. If Haynes King was a 5-star, or Connor Wegman was a 5-star, or Max Johnson, he was a 5-star, but he's played better before he got to A&M than when he got here. If people come to your team and all of a sudden they all start to play like the same mediocre, mistake-prone player, it's you. It's you. The most expensive roster, the first true NIL roster ever. They are 3-4 on the season. Auburn could finish ahead of Texas A&M right now. There were some dummies that put them in the playoff before the season started, and Auburn could finish ahead of Texas A&M. It's so poetic. I don't know what to say. It flies against so many commonly held notions. Well, you got to get somebody that knows the SEC. No, that doesn't mean shit. You got to get somebody who's won a national championship. It doesn't mean shit. You got to get somebody who can beat Bama. He beat Bama. That means shit. You got to get all the 5-star talent. It doesn't mean shit. What Jimbo Fisher is he has everything you would tell the Auburn fan would tell you they wanted a head coach. It doesn't matter if you have all those experiences and you are just bad at what you do. That is an actual bad head coach. So you know what? I don't even know where the Texas A&M message boards and Twitters are. I wonder where they are. Because I bet they are on fire.
Oh, they are. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness,
brother! When I tell you the Texas A&M message boards are lighting Jimothy T up,
and the T stands for what?
Terrible
trash. Why didn't their board call me before they hired him? I would have told them everything they needed to know before they. I didn't read it. I heard this on some broadcast. They were saying that the reason that they locked him up for 10 years at the pay that $400 million was because they were worried LSU was going to come after. They were worried somebody was going to take Jimbo off their hands. So they say, no, we got a 3-4 season coming next year and we want it here. How could we miss out on that? They probably could have gotten Brian Kelly. If Brian Kelly was just going to go to the first place and offered him $10 million a year, you could have oh, man. I thought, I'm not even playing with y'all. Auburn beat Bama and Georgia in the same season, 2017. And it was all this, is Gus going to go to Arkansas? Somebody asked me in a press conference, Gus, are you thinking about, he was like, well, I want to, I'm at Auburn and I like being at Auburn. That was his way of saying, you know what? If y'all don't pay me, I'm going to go to Arkansas. Man, if you don't let Gus go to Arkansas, they would have did you a favor. No buyouts. You could have, whoever was hot on the market, I think was Lane available. No, he wasn't available the next year. That's not that year. Why are we so afraid to let mediocrity walk out the door at these jobs? Why? Because they've done something. Jimbo's been, this is year number 5. He had a decent season year number 3, and every year other than that,
his record now at this point is worse than Sumlin's.
And Kevin, Lord, y'all got me. I'm about to stick up for Kevin
At this
Sumlin.
point, Kevin Sumlin has a better record than Jimbo. I'm happy. I'm really happy. Again, for so many reasons. He was always a fraud. And I'm glad the fan base is up in arms about it, because you should be, because your boosters are idiots. You just threw money at whoever checked the boxes, right? That's kind of what our fan base wants people to do. Once our boosters do, throw money at whoever checks the boxes. The reason that I personally, and I'm not going to put these words in everybody else on the panel's mouth, I didn't mind Brian Harsin as a hire, because I don't think the fact that you've been involved with the winning program for so long, or you've won a national championship, or the SEC footprint, that doesn't make you a good coach. It doesn't. It just doesn't. It's why I don't care about Urban Meyer. I don't like hearing the name Bob Stoops every time they bring it up. Bob Stoops won a championship like what, 2000, 2001? Was that the last Oklahoma championship? 2000. Ever since then, he got on the big stage and got ramrodded, including by Boise State. He was the team that put Boise State on the map. But because he was in the conversation year after year, losing to Florida, losing to whoever else they lost to in those championship games, USC, I guess that's what Auburn wants, to be in the conversation. I want somebody who can actually get it done. And I am not of the belief that just because you've seen it and been around it, that you know how to do it. Jimbo Fisher doesn't know how to do it. He is proof that all the things that Auburn fans want in the head coach doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. We got to find somebody here. I guess we should be talking to Texas A&M. Who cares? This is going to be great. Hopefully what we're learning from this experience is you absolutely have to find somebody who can do these things, and you may not know they can do it before you hire them, and that doesn't make them a bad coach. Coaches have to get to this level and figure it out with these new tools, with these new resources, with these new demands. And an up-and-coming coach is not necessarily a bad hire. That doesn't mean it's the right coach, but that doesn't make it a bad coach. What's a worse coaching pick is paying $100 million for a guy and however many million for the roster, and then finding out that he's the wrong guy. You could have did it for a quarter of the money if you had an up-and-coming guy.
if you knew what to look for in a head coach, that means he's a head coach, not just he's been around every time somebody has some success. I don't want that. I don't want somebody who's success adjacent. I want somebody who is the reason for the success and understands it, even if they haven't had a chance to do it before. You think did we have any idea what we were doing when we started the War Report? Had any of us been streamers? I had not made content. I was not a content creator. See, had you hosted some? Well, see, you actually had hosted a show. Never mind, that's a bad example. But anyway,
Close enough.
we had not done this. We had ideas about what we would want it to look like. It's not until we took it upon ourselves, like, do we really want to do this? Yes, let's do it. Now the burden becomes, now I'm challenging myself to make this better. We saw people in the spaces doing it. We said, nah, I can do it better than that. I'm going to learn from what they did wrong, and I'm going to do it better. Those are usually how these things go. Those things happen. You don't have to have done it to be good at it and to apply what you've learned in life and all your skills and experiences and focus it into a new responsibility and a new challenge. That can happen. You want to pay old losers $100 million? All right. It's fun. That's fine. Cool. Congratulations, Texas A&M. We may have made a cultural and fit mistake with Brian Harsin, especially if you're going to cut him down at the knees before he gets a chance to get going. But what we didn't make was a $100 million mistake with Jimbo Fisher. And for that, I'm thankful. Thank you.
Slow clap there. Slow clap there.
I don't know why you thought that was going to be disappointing, man. That was worth every minute.
I didn't have a plan.
You don't need a plan.
You don't need one.
You in you, bruh.
You Jay-Z when you get in the studio. You didn't write these rhymes. You didn't write these raps. Anyway,
they wrote themselves.
Jazzy Joe also echoes our sentiments. He says thank you. Thank you, Jazzy. Thank you. Ghost 3520 says Bo only had 6 picks in the last 2 years combined. Congrats to Bo. Congrats to Bo. Question. B. Would Jimbo make a bowl?
Man, I sure hope not. Or if they do finish bowl eligible, I hope that they fire him and therefore he does not make a bowl. Texas A&M might go, but he would not. But you know, who knows? I think who else do they have on the docket? They've got LSU, right?
They got Ole Miss.
That's a loss. Ole Miss. Ole Miss is mediocre. They might be able to sneak over.
That's a loss.
Okay, we'll wait till we talk about that when that game comes.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there. I still say it would be this team's crowning achievement, this Auburn team's crowning achievement to beat Texas A&M, because Texas A&M's run game is still decent, and that's the challenge. That's the challenge. If our linebacker play hasn't improved by the time we see them, it is still dicey whether or not we could beat that team. But they're looking like the quarterback play could be a liability. And if that's the case, an inexperienced quarterback is going to turn you the ball over, or you're going to protect him so much that your offense just doesn't move. And either way, that plays into our hands. It would do our linebacker some good to have to play a team that's going to do nothing but run the ball, and they'll be scared to throw against a very good Auburn secondary. And our linebackers don't have to get so much. Just attack. Just peel your ears back, attack, and we stand a chance to win that game. I would love to see them come in 5-7. Man, that would be so good. That would be so good. We can only hope. Can only hope.
I think you've been happy thus far, though.
It's been a really good weekend.
James Burnett says, I think Auburn should be careful about who they hire. They could hire another Jimothy. Just saying, thoughts on that.
That's what I'm saying.
This is the concern with a transition in coaching. There's 2 parts. You got to pull the trigger on who you got, but you also got to get that next hire correct.
Yeah.
So that's always the concern, regardless of whether you want the coach going or not, regardless of the situation, you got to get that next hire right. That's the tough part with programs across the country. So that's all I got. Gentlemen, you got anything? Are we good?
Anything else here?
You know what? I saw this because it was happening, and I did this from the War Report account. I threw a little hate, a little shade, at UCF. I think it was Ben Woken, and I don't know who he writes for or what he writes. I don't know if it's like a Sports Illustrated or ESPN guy or what, but it was either, I think it was while UCF was like murdering Temple by 100 points a couple weeks ago. He said, Gus Malzahn is a good football coach. Temple is like 123 out of 131 teams as far as record production, all that. Like the AAC's bottom of their barrel is terrible. Gus has a bunch of secondhand SEC talent. If he didn't beat Temple by 100 million points, it means that he's Jimbo Fisher. But Gus did what Gus usually does, which is when he steps onto a game and he's got better talent than you, if you don't meet the talent prerequisite as his opponent, then Gus is going to get you. And that's usually what he's really good at. Every now and then he could play up and beat somebody that had better talent. He did it against Bama here and there. But that's who Gus is. So they finally hit the road to play an opponent with a winning record. We're not talking an undefeated team. We're not talking a number one in their division AAC team. We're talking about Eastern Carolina. Just the only other team that they have played this year that had a winning record, Louisville. When they went like 10 drives without scoring. You know what happened when they beat Eastern Carolina? Came in averaging like 200 some yards, 34-13. Gus Malzahn squatting on the road against an equally talented, or at least equally as productive team. Have we heard that one before? It can be okay that we moved on. Everybody acts like Brian Harsin not just winning the SEC in year 2 means you shouldn't have moved on from Gus Malzahn. No, Gus was done.
Two things can be true.
Gus was done here. Whether or not you think Brian Harsin was the best hire or not, that I'll leave that up to your personal evaluation. It was time to move on from Gus Malzahn. Thank you. More hate.
Hate. Keep it going. Keep it going.
I'm done.
All right. Tell the people what they can be doing, man.
You need to be coming on board, man. We got this membership thing popping. We still got a lot of great film to break down for you. Well, the film is not that great, but I'm still going to be doing a great job on the breakdown. But we're definitely going to be talking more about things that we can see going into the Arkansas game. So make sure that you're a patron to be a part of that. If you are a member already and you want to gift someone a membership right there in the live chat from a computer, you can do that. Just click on the little gift box and gift as many memberships as you would like to. If you didn't get an opportunity to win something today, you can head over to thewarreport.com. As mentioned earlier, we do have articles that are there, and I wrote a couple of pieces on a scorecard for the team thus far during the bye week. So you can go check those articles out right now. But you can also support us by shopping at the War Report, copping some merch if you didn't get an opportunity to win any merch today. And we definitely appreciate Walt Taylor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, for continuing to support those giveaways on our weekend tailgate. As far as other audio content that we have, that is at the Auburn Express on all of your podcast platforms. The Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We have audio only content and replays of our video content in audio format over there. So make sure you check us out on your podcast platforms.
Guys, thanks again for hanging out with us. Special shout out to Athletic Architects for being a sponsor of today's show. Guys, before you get out of here, share this video. Use the hashtag, smash that like button. If you're new to our channel, please be sure to subscribe to us. If you want to interact with us on social media, you can find us Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at The War Report. We are TW Report on TikTok. That's it for now, guys, but we will definitely see you later this week as we preview Auburn and Arkansas, give our thoughts on those matchups, talk our expectations for other games this upcoming weekend. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.